Okay, I'm going to look at two homework questions. That was from lesson number 6, Division of Rational Expressions. So this is on page 413. I'm going to take a look at question 3B, and then I'm going to skip towards the end of the assignment and look at a question that has multiple operations. So if we look at question number 3, it's asking us to simplify. And remember, we always state our restrictions as well. So in B, I need to make sure that my step number 1 is to factor. I need to factor all numerators and all denominators. So in my first numerator, remember, we're looking for two numbers that multiply to 36 and add to 13. So that's going to factor to x plus 9 times x plus 4, all divided by x squared minus 4. This is a difference of squares. So what two numbers, what two factors am I going to have? So this is going to now just be x plus 2 times x minus 2. All divided by, if I factor this second numerator, I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 40 and add to negative 6. So I'm going to use x minus 10 times x plus 4. Okay, all divided by what two numbers multiply to negative 20 and add to negative 8. So I'm going to use x minus 10 times x plus 2. Okay, now once I've factored everything, I'm going to change this into a multiplication statement. So remember, we keep the first fraction the same, flip the second, and then we multiply. So this is going to be equal to, this is x plus 9 times x plus 4, all divided by x plus 2 times x minus 2. I'm going to flip the second fraction, so this is going to be x minus 10 times x plus 2, all divided by, this is x minus 10 times x plus 4. And then my division symbol in the middle is going to now become a multiplication sign. Okay, just ignore this part D, because I'm going to just continue writing downwards. Okay, so now that I have a multiplication statement, I'm going to highlight where I'm going to find all of my non-permissible values before I continue with the question. So remember, my initial non-permissible values were in both denominators. And then now that I've flipped that second fraction, I also have non-permissible values in the denominator here. Okay, so that was actually the numerator of that second fraction initially. So I'm going to leave those highlighted, and then at the end, when I state my answer, that's where I'm going to pull my non-permissible values from. Okay, so now if I go back to just simply multiplying, I'm ready to cancel things out. So what jumps out at me first? I see an x plus 4 on the top, an x plus 4 on the bottom. I also see an x plus 2 on the bottom, and an x plus 2 on top, and then an x minus 10 on the top, and an x minus 10 on the bottom. So now what I'm simply left with, if I multiply top times top and bottom times bottom, I'm left with x plus 9 on the top, all divided by x minus 2 on the bottom. So that would be my simplified expression, but now what I want to make sure I also do is state all of my restrictions. So I'm going to say x cannot be equal to, remember when you're stating restrictions to write from least to greatest, so going all the way to the left to the right on the number line. So my first restriction that I'm going to include is going to be negative 4, then negative 2, and then we're going to also have positive 2, so I could just write plus or minus 2. And then we're going to have positive 10. Okay, so here would be my complete answer if I was to simplify this, as well as then state all of my restrictions. Okay, so that's how to do 3B. Now we're going to jump over to, let's look at example, or sorry, I shouldn't say example, but question number 7. And we're going to go to 7B as well. So I'm going to jump over there right now. Okay, so if we look at 7B, so it says simplify, state the non-permissible values. And you know what, let's do 7A actually, because that way I can just cross out my B and just continue using the whole space. Okay, so here we see that there's two operations going on. I've got division and I have multiplication. So remember, we have to remember the acronym BEDMAS. So think order is important. So what's going to come first? We're going to have divisions first, and then our multiplication is going to happen second. Okay, so we're going to divide our first two fractions first, and then we'll take that answer and multiply it with the third one. Okay, so the steps are the same every time. Make sure that we factor first, and then we'll make sure to kind of see where our restrictions are going to be, and then we can just perform our operations. So our first fraction, nothing needs to be factored, so this just stays as a minus 1 divided by a plus 4, all divided by, these factors are going to be a plus 5 times a plus 1, all divided by, this is a difference of squares, so a plus 1 times a minus 1. Then we have multiplied by, my factors for the numerator is going to be a plus 4 times a minus 1, all divided by, this is going to be a minus 1 times a minus 1. Okay, so now everything is factored, so now I can go ahead and perform the operations. So if I look at this division statement, okay, so we're going to divide the first two fractions together. So to do that, I'm going to keep the first fraction the same, then I'm going to flip the second one, and then I'm going to just multiply. Okay. So now I can simply just multiply, and I'm going to just leave this third fraction until the end where I bring it back in. So now when I go to multiply, I see that I have an a plus 1 on the top and a plus 1 on the bottom. And do I see that I have anything else that I can really cancel out? I can't, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Again, I'm crossing out this number 8 so that I can just keep writing downwards. So multiply top times top, bottom times bottom. So on the top, I'm left with a minus 1 times a minus 1, all divided by a plus 4. And now I'm going to bring this third fraction back in. So I'm going to pull this back down. So this is then multiplied by, I've got a plus 4 on the top times a minus 1, all divided by a minus 1 times a minus 1. Okay, so again, let's look to see what can I cancel out. So I've got a minus 1 on the top, a minus 1 on the bottom, another a minus 1 on the top, another a minus 1 on the bottom, and then I've got an a plus 4 on the bottom and an a plus 4 on the top. And you know what I also forgot, guys? Sorry, this a plus 5 right up here. This should have stayed in my denominator here with that first fraction. Okay, so then all that we're simply left with, again, multiply top times top, bottom times bottom. So we're going to be left with a minus 1 on the top, all divided by a plus 5 on the bottom. I cannot simplify that any further, so that would be my final answer. But now we need to go back and see where did we have restrictions. So I'm going to take that highlighter out again, and I'm going to look, where did I ever have variables in the denominator? So in the beginning, I have a plus 4, then I have a plus 1, a minus 1. Then we flipped that second fraction, so then now I have a plus 5 and a plus 1. And then when we bring that third fraction back, I now also have a minus 1 and a minus 1. So we will have some repetitive non-permissible values because I see repetitive factors. So you only have to include them once, remember? So now, if I go back to my pen, it's not working so nicely. My computer's a little bit glitchy. So if I go back and just quickly look at my non-permissible values, I'll write these in highlighter. We're going to say a cannot be equal to, I'm going to have a negative 5, a negative 4, and then we're also going to have plus or minus 1. Okay? All right, so here is a nice question where I have to use order of operations. So this would be a definite test type question that I would probably see. Okay, so here are two questions from the homework that I thought maybe you might want to see how to do the solutions. So make sure that you are finishing your homework for this week where you're doing the homework from lesson 5, the homework from lesson 6, as well as the worksheet that I provided with you guys. Okay, have a good day.